An Egyptian billionaire thinks that he might be able to single-handedly solve the incredibly serious Syrian refugee crisis. His name is Naguib Sawiris, and he wants to set up an island for them to flee to, rather than trying to make the extremely dangerous journey to various countries in the region, also EU countries, which they're often barred from. There have been a number of wrecks resulting in literally thousands of deaths. He wants to set up a safe haven for them. He said this: "Greece or Italy, sell me an island. I'll call its independence and host the migrants and provide jobs for them building their new country." He said that an island off Greece or Italy could cost between $10 million and $100 million, but added that the main thing in investment is the infrastructure, of course. And he says that of course it's feasible. You have dozens of islands which are deserted and could accommodate hundreds of thousands of refugees. He has more details, but this is an interesting idea. It is, I think, heartwarming to see a billionaire who wants to have a direct influence on people who are going through almost literal hell.
So just earlier in the week, John and I were talking about how the Gulf countries are not allowing any Syrians in, right? So all the guys are like, oh, our fellow Muslims, blah, 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 blah. No, not here, right? So now here's a presumably Muslim guy out of Egypt.
Good chance. Could be Coptic, but there's a possibility.
Right? Whoever he is, God bless his heart, right? Saying, hey, you know what? I am going to step up. So now, is it going to work? I'd be really surprised. I mean, but he's thinking outside the box, right? Is Greece or Italy going to sell you an island to put immigrants on? That seems unlikely,
They have
right?
a lot of them, though.
I hear you, but countries don't like to let go of land.
Right?
Yeah, that's like a big thing for a country, right?
I mean, theoretically, if it was some sort of partnership with this Egyptian billionaire, they get the benefit of the positive PR of helping these people, something that they have been doing sort of somewhat reluctantly, without having to front the cost for the development of the island and potentially putting some of the risk off onto him. It could be a win-win. Win-win-win,
Of course
actually.
it could, but if you were talking about rational people instead of the territorial animals that we are, right? So every once in a while, Greece and Turkey will get nearly into a war because there'll be like a 1 foot by 1 foot island in the middle of the Mediterranean, and Greece will go and put its flag on it, and Turkey will go put its flag on it, and then they'll bring the battleships and get ready to go, that's my 1 foot island, right? So that's the mentality we're talking about. So Greece, Italy, whoever, Turkey, hell no, right? Hey, can I take one of your islands? I'll pay you a lot of money. Well, unless the money was going to the politician. Then maybe we got a deal to make. But outside of that, they'd bring the battleships. There's no way they're going to do that.
This is the consequence of war. This is a real visual evidence of what war creates. It creates displacement. It creates misery. It creates death. It is the consequence of political leaders who say, I want boots on the ground, I want more war, I'll be the best at the military you've ever seen, we'll go in there. You are displacing innocent people. It's a humane problem. We care more about a lost whale finding its way to the ocean than we do these people getting some shelter, I mean, when you see that little boy wash up on the ocean today, I don't know if I've ever seen something so sad and heart-wrenching. It's just horrific, but it is a consequence. There's a connection between we've got to go over there and kick some fucking ass and what it does to the people who live there who are caught in the crossfire. Yeah. And when you couple that attitude with the global institutional failure of all these institutions that fail to help and to solve humanitarian crises, this is the world we get. I don't know. I got real serious. What happened?
Yeah,
it is serious.
It's just so
but it's true.
It's heartbreaking.
So, when we were on the air, now a dozen years ago, right before the Iraq War, when we were just on the radio, and we're saying, don't go into Iraq, it'll have consequences, We had a president at the time who said, I don't do nuance, right? Mm-hmm. But that dead Syrian kid on the beach, that's nuanced, okay? That's the consequences. Mm-hmm. Because we came in there like a bull in a china shop. We broke everything in the Middle East, right? We hit Iraq when we had no business in Iraq. They hadn't hit us. We came in there, we had no plan, right? We're like, oh, the Sunni and Shia don't like each other. Oh my God, they're gonna go to war. Oh, that war's gonna spread to other countries. Oh, I don't know, I don't do nuance. And now we have Republican candidates saying, I don't know any of those people. I'll figure it out when I become president. But you don't figure it out. Instead, this is what happens. Now, And you're right again, Brian, about the animals. Like, so I care about the whale, I care about the lion, but Cecil, the lion, the whole country, the whole planet is weeping for this lion. 2,300 people have died just trying to get out of Syria during the refugee crisis, let alone the hundreds of thousands that died in Syria, let alone the hundreds of thousands that died in Iraq, right?
Yeah.
And we just go, just bomb them, right? You know, who is they? Who are you bombing? And then what are the consequences of that? It doesn't mean, and then they simplify it to, well, don't you want to bomb ISIS? Don't you hate ISIS? Yeah, I know, of course we hate ISIS. The question is, how do you attack it? And if it turns out you go in this way, now we're trying to figure out, where do we put hundreds of thousands? Where do we put millions of people? There's 1 million people in Lebanon that are Syrian refugees. That's a quarter of their population. Amazing, right? We talked about this yesterday. That would be 75 million people in America. If all of a sudden 75 million people came into America, could you imagine the Donald Trump-like reactions if that happened, right? In Turkey, there's 1.6 million Syrian refugees. These are the consequences. So now we got guys who are like, I don't know, do I buy an island? Do I start a whole new country? Then you'd have to have cops, you'd have to have jurisdictional issues, you'd have to have customs service, then you'd have to keep other people out of that country, right? I mean, right? And it goes around and around. That's because we didn't think anything through. And then you wonder why people hate America, right? And idiots like Joe Scarborough will say things like, they hate us because they hate us.
Literally dead children are washing up on the beaches.
Yeah.
That's so fucked up that people who are crying out for more intervention or more militaristic attitude don't connect. And those who care about the unborn children of the world and are so, I mean, it's such a moral collapse. On top of an institutional collapse, on top of there's a certain hopelessness in that. And I think it is so tragic. That little boy didn't ask to be born into that world. Where's someone defending that kid's life? You know, nowhere. Other than look at this horrific picture. What are we going to do about this immigrant crisis? Oh, gee, here we go again. And it's pretty fucking sad.